Hey folks, welcome into the News 12 Now Desk. Thanks for joining us here on this Thursday, May the 18th, 8 o'clock here on our Thursday morning. Taking a look outside, ugly start to the day. Nothing like we've had the rest of the week so far. We knew this was coming. We had heard this from our meteorologist telling us all week long Thursday is going to be a not so pleasant day. Meanwhile, the rest of the week has been pretty good. Let's take a quick peek here at the 7-day forecast that will pull up real fast here. Taking a look, yeah, highs less than 70 today. When we've had 70s into 80s the rest of the week. So see a little rain, a little cooler temps, but overall, not going to be the worst morning out there that we've had. So can't complain about that too much. Okay, we are taking a look at our top headlines now. Some of the big stories happening here in the CSRA, in 2 state, and then around the nation as well. Some of the big things going on over on our website that you guys have taken quite a bit of interest in. Before we jump in, though, want to real quick remind you to download our streaming app and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Super easy to do. I'll go over it again at the end, but let's do the YouTube channel right here. If you just go to youtube.com and you search WRDW News 12, look at that, it's right here. You can subscribe. We do a lot of streaming on here. So if you want to catch any of those live streams, whether it's these headlines or if there's a press conference going on, anything like that, that'll all be on our YouTube channel. So be sure to subscribe to that. And then, of course, the streaming channel or streaming app as well, which you can do on your smart TV, whatever your favorite streaming device is, your phone, your laptop, anything like that, too. So, okay, now let's jump into the headlines. We're talking mass shootings and mental health. Tough to talk about one without the other. In the mass shooting in Midtown Atlanta, the suspect was with his mom at a medical facility waiting to get medication to help with anxiety and depression.
From the medical standpoint, it is real. And when somebody is saying they need help, or you see that they're acting out of sorts, they need help. Help them. Just don't disregard them.
And in Memphis, a judge has ordered a second mental health evaluation for the man accused of shooting into a TV station before barricading himself in a restaurant. The suspect's mom said her son has faced mental health challenges for most of his life, and the shooting was a cry for help.
Now, I work a lot, but my daughter said that my son is going to need some help. So, if this is the attention that my son is drawing, then his mama gonna get him some help today.
And we had a mass shooting in Augusta just last weekend, along with the threat of another retaliation shooting. And last night, a forum put a spotlight on mental health and how it can impact our community. Our Taylor Martin spoke to someone who knows this all too well.
As the conversation of mass shootings and mental health continue, tonight the Augusta chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority sponsored an open forum to help get the conversation about mental health flowing at Julian Smith Casino. It's been 8 years since a gunman opened fire in a Bible study in Charleston.
In 2015, in Charleston, South Carolina, I lost my mom in that mass shooting.
Chris Singleton says it's why he strives to inspire others and speak on mental health every day.
I don't think a person that's sane or that is secure in their mental health would do that. But hopefully, as we move forward, we'll talk about these things and stop them from happening in the future.
Panelists say when you talk about it, you reduce the stigma around mental health and hopefully create action for changes.
You've got to meet people where they are and address their individual needs and put funding towards that, put funding towards community mental health programs.
And with mass shootings, it's become clear. A recurring theme behind the trigger is a failure to address previous mental health issues.
Normally, the person that is committing the crime or doing the unthinkable, they've experienced some level of trauma in their lives as well.
For Chris, mental health is both his past and his future. It's what took his mom and what he now has to work to protect.
The rest of my life, I'll remember losing my mom in the way that I did. I'm definitely trying to be on the forefront of talking about those things.
And as far as local resources for mental health, we'll have a list of them on our website, WRDW.com.
Thanks for that, Taylor. Such an important topic to cover. Teachers across Georgia and here at home feeling the burnout. The Professional Association of Georgia Educators says 82% of schools in the state are short on teachers. 20% want to leave the profession within the next 5 years. $2,000 teacher pay raise was signed and approved this year by Governor Kemp. The county says they've done automatic interviews for the last 3 years in Columbia County, so next year they'll see how many students will take up their offer.
Well, it was a celebration for the Columbia County School District today for future teachers and first-year teachers. First-year teachers standing, future teachers signing, ramping up for the career in front of them.
I have my own classroom in 4 to 5 years, and to just be able to change the community and kids.
Ashlyn Crabtree is one of the 50 graduating in Columbia County, signing their intent to be a teacher. Columbia County's Teaching as a Profession program has grown over 4 years to all 5 high schools. For Richmond County, they have this pathway in 4 schools. Signing today guarantees an interview in the county, looking to make students now the district's teachers later. In Richmond County, their students are showing interest in teaching as well, with 18 signing this year compared to 15 last year. For first-year teachers, they come at a time when some are leaving.
It's just great to be able to realize, what I'm doing now, they're going to remember me and they're going to think back, and just to be able to make that impact.
Luke Yelton is this year's Columbia County Rookie of the Year, among the other first-year teachers recognized today. It's an incentive looking to keep the teachers long-term. Columbia County currently has a retention rate of 92%. Richmond County has a 3-year induction program where they look to help new teachers grow. Columbia County has a first-year mentorship program, and both of these look to support teachers early on to keep them longer.
Worked with her every day. She's right across the hall from me. She's given me so much advice. If she wanted to open a consulting firm, I would run out of money very quickly.
For Columbia County, the longer-term goal is to create a signing bonus for those who graduate within Columbia County and then become a teacher in Columbia County, just adding another incentive. In Columbia County, Nick Veland on your side.
All right, thanks for that, Nick. The Columbia County School Board, former Superintendent Dr. Sandra Caraway, and former teacher Scott Hooker are facing a lawsuit. Yesterday, Madison Cooksey's attorney filed a complaint alleging Hooker was inappropriate with her at school. The alleged sexual assault happened in 2017 at Evans High School. The suit claims Scott Hooker, then a teacher, called Cooksey over to his desk and put his hand on her lower back. It alleges he moved his hand lower, groping her, causing her to run out of the classroom. Cooksey claims she told another teacher about the advances. An investigation then followed with the Columbia County Sheriff's Office. It goes on to say Hooker was allowed to continue working for the school system at Evans High School. Then on February 23rd, the lawsuit claims former Superintendent Sandra Caraway wrote a letter to Hooker saying he admitted to giving Cooksey a side hug and said his interactions with female students are, quote, worrisome.
It's honestly pretty devastating to go through all of this and feel the way that I'm feeling without any backup other than, the people who are on my side and support me in that way. Columbia County hasn't really done their part, nor are they wanting to do their part, and it's just really tough for people in my situation going through that and wanting to come forward and wanting justice for the right things and nobody else wanting justice for you.
In September of last year, Hooker was in court to face charges of inappropriately touching Cooksey. In that hearing, we learned the school district was made aware of the incident, but the lawsuit claims that they failed to act. Our I-team learned an investigator with Georgia Professional Standards Commission said the only case that they had on file was from April of 2022, meaning no one from Columbia County reported Hooker's actions in 2017. Educators are required to report a breach in the Code of Ethics no later than 90 days from the day they become aware of it. Cooksey is seeking at least $35,000 in damages. Scott Hooker is out on bond. His next court date will be in August. We'll hear more from Madison Cooksey and her lawyer today after sitting down with our I-team. You can see any of our past coverage on this case at WRDW.com. Sun Smart and Skin Safe. May is Skin Cancer Awareness Month, and the Georgia Cancer Center is teaming up with Augusta University to help get the word out. These dispensers give out sunscreen instead of hand sanitizer like you would normally see. Dr. Loretta explained the skin safety and why initiatives like these are so important.
We at the Georgia Cancer Center treat all kinds of cancer, and skin cancer is the most common type of cancer, period. It's more common than any other type of cancer. And so even though we're here to treat it, the best thing to do is to prevent it. And so preventing it means being smart, staying out of the sun as much as possible, being responsible when you're in the sun, using sunscreen to keep yourself from sunburning, trying to not tan, which is a sign of sun damage.
Augusta University is the first campus in the university system to have these dispensers, and sunscreen is obviously very important. We have a story from our own Meredith Anderson, who has basal cell and squamous cell, no melanoma, thankfully, all caught early. This is the last of her 30-plus biopsies over the years. This is from last month. In a few weeks, she does have to go back and get some more cut. We have our Liz Owens, who had melanoma. We had Hallie Turner did a story on that. We also lost an anchor here 12 years ago at News 12. We lost an anchor at News 12 years ago to melanoma, Cindy Pleasant. So it is important to protect your skin and to get screened. You never think it's going to happen to you until it does. It's been 6 years since world-famous comedian Kevin Hart took a jog through Augusta before performing here. In this Facebook video, you can see him starting in Augusta, running along the Levee Path before heading over the 13th Street Bridge and onto the Greenway. He covered a lot of ground that day, and in less than a month, he'll be back in Augusta for the Reality Check Tour. He's set to perform at the Bell Auditorium for one night only. The city just broke ground on the new $17.5 million renovation and expansion project on the Bell Auditorium. Hallie Turner takes a look at what that means for one of the largest shows this area has seen in a long time.
What he lacks in height, he makes up for with humor.
The biggest thing in our social circle was like quoting Kevin Hart jokes and stuff, and it still is, like 10 years later.
And he's coming back to the River region.
Kevin Hart is hilarious. He's one of the biggest names in comedy. He's kind of one of those like once in a lifetime opportunities to see. He doesn't come around very often.
He's making his appearance in June in the middle of a $17.5 million facelift for the Bell. Officials at the entertainment complex say construction impact isn't a worry. It's minimal until July 1, but ticket sales are the thing to watch because they're going fast.
So this morning when we logged on, the first like 3 sets of seats we clicked on, by the time we put them in our basket to pay for them, it was already like, hey, they're not available.
Haley says no matter the hassle, she isn't missing the chance to see Hart.
First real big name in comedy that I got into by myself outside of watching it with my dad. So I remember like when all of his specials first made it on Netflix, binging all of them. My friends would all come over.
Officials say the concert is a cell phone free zone. It will go in a pouch so you can't video the performance. Parking will be $5 cash or credit, and the clear bag policy is in effect. But patrons can expect to see more celebrities like Hart in the coming months, benefiting business owners like Haley.
So an event of this magnitude with somebody that's really that popular and that mainstream, that trickles down for the whole economy because you're going to have people going downtown to get dinner before the show.
Hallie Turner reporting for us there. Okay, we are going to take a quick live look here at Augusta. We've got a drill for an active shooter drill taking place this morning. Law enforcement officials from the CSRA they're going to be playing out scenarios in real time to be prepared in the event that something does happen. This is at the old Southside Elementary School on Old Louisville Road. It started at 8 o'clock, so really just getting underway there. Again, this is an active shooter drill taking place right now. Law enforcement from across the area going to be here playing out scenarios in real time just in case something does happen. Of course, we had that shooting on Saturday on Old Sandbar Ferry Road. We had a hoax of a school shooting, a threat of a school shooting at Westside. Well, sometime, I want to say late last year maybe. That one turned out obviously to be a hoax. That's a good thing. But just to have these drills for these different scenarios, that's happening right now at Augusta, or at Southside Elementary School in Augusta. So our Nick Veland's out there right now. He'll have more on that coming up a little bit later on tonight. We may check back in a little bit later on in this show if we can see anything while we're out there. Okay, let me get the other stuff back up here so we can continue on. If this thing wants to load. There we go. Okay, moving on here. One man is in jail after Waynesboro police say he attacked a man pumping gas for allegedly texting and Snapchatting his wife. This all happened on West 6th Street. Police say 42-year-old Robert McCafferty's assault was caught on store surveillance video. Officers say the victim says McCafferty took him to the ground and choked him. McCafferty is charged with aggravated assault and battery. And honestly, he doesn't look too sorry about the whole thing in that mugshot. We have an exclusive update from our I-Team about a new child development center planned for Fort Gordon. We first told you about it back in January when Senator Ossoff secured more than $20 million to fund it. But he tells our Meredith Anderson that project could be in jeopardy because of some government red tape.
And tonight, Senator Ossoff tells me he has a plan to cut through that red tape. He says it's a priority. That's because child care for our local military families isn't just important to moms and dads at Fort Gordon. It's actually important to all of us.
As if this job isn't stressful enough, military families who move often and work unusual hours have to find childcare. Since 1985, the number of active duty single parents has jumped 67%. Households where both parents are active duty military has also more than doubled. Childcare isn't a luxury, it's a basic need.
It's the right thing, period. It's important, period. And also, it is vital to our national security because it gets at our ability to recruit and retain talented people to serve in the armed forces.
Which is why Senator John Ossoff says Fort Gordon needs a new child development center. Earlier this year, the I-Team broke the news he'd secured millions for a building to serve 126 children between the ages of 6 weeks and 5 years. But it will now take another act of Congress to put those plans in motion.
You got to have two things in place. You have to secure the funding, and you have to ensure that the Army has the proper authority to build it.
This week, he and Senator Raphael Warnock are introducing a bill to give the Army that authority. They want to include it in the National Defense Authorization Act. Congress passes it each year to give the green light to pretty much everything the Department of Defense does.
I think we've got a good shot at success is, again, bring Republicans and Democrats together to make sure the Army has the necessary authority and time to get this done.
Senator Ossoff says if this goes through, he hopes the new center could be up and running by 2026. Of course, we will keep you posted.
Okay, Meredith, thanks for that. So let's take another live look here out at Southside Elementary School on Old Louisville Road in Augusta. You see a big presence of law enforcement, but that is okay. This is a drill that they're doing out there. Law enforcement from across the area going to be playing out different emergency scenarios, active shooter scenarios that they can be prepared for. Remember, we just had this shooting last weekend on Sandbar Ferry Road at that motorcycle club. We had a threat of a school shooting. It was a hoax, thankfully, but we did have that threat at West Side, I want to say sometime last year. I can't remember exactly when it was, earlier in this school year. And so this is going to help law enforcement be prepared for that. And so that's what they're doing out there right now. Again, Southside Elementary School on Old Louisville Road. And we'll go ahead and kind of pop in every now and then as if they start picking up and doing some things that we can see. We'll join back in on that live look. But Nick Veland will have more on that coming up a little bit later on. And we may check back in here in just a few minutes. The Salvation Army of Augusta had their Compassion in Action luncheon yesterday. The event spotlights community members who have gone above and beyond to support them in their mission of doing good in the community. As you can see, it was a packed house. Arzana Halliburton and Cliff Bennett were MCs for that event. One of the main missions of the Salvation Army is to provide humanitarian services to anybody in need. Last year in their job skills training program, 73% of those needed that service found a job. One woman we talked to turned to the Salvation Army during a hard period in her life. Now she's a core mission associate helping others looking for help. She says every donation matters.
Donate, give, because that one thing that you're giving could help. That one shirt could help somebody that needs it for an interview. That one bag of diapers could help a baby.
The Salvation Army has also highlighted their success this year. More than 29 nights for those looking for temporary housing and almost 70,000 meals served. Local students are creating murals out of storm drains. Goshen Elementary was one of seven public schools in Richmond County where students put paintbrush to pavement. We caught up with some fifth graders who painted a mural there. The program is designed to teach students about the water cycle, Augusta's water ecosystem, and our role in keeping storm drains clean.
If there's trash going in the water and stuff, it can lead through the drains to go to the lake, and the lake can lead to the ocean, which is causing all like sea turtles and fish to die because they're gonna be eating plastic or something, or it's gonna get wrapped around the thing and it can kill them.
The Storm Drain into Mural program was created by the City of Augusta Engineering and Environmental Services, the Greater Augusta Arts Council, Finney Center for Water Sciences, and the Richmond County School System. Saluting our troops with a thundering fireworks display, Thunder Over Evans is an evening of music, fireworks, and a tribute to those who serve our country. It's all in honor of Armed Forces Day, and it's returning this weekend. It's all happening this Saturday at Evans Town Center Park. Gates open at 5:30. The fireworks are going to start around 9:15. The event is free, and there's going to be a 200 drone display coming all the way from Pennsylvania. News 12 is a proud sponsor of that event. Aiken County is in the final stages of choosing their next county administrator. Council members decided the deputy administrator, Brian Sanders, will replace Clay Killian. They also approved contract negotiations to begin for the position. That contract will be reviewed by the council before it's adopted. Former Aiken County Council member Jane Vaughters has died. She passed away over the weekend after serving on council for 8 years. Her family says she loved reading, especially British literature and history, and she taught high school English for several years. In addition to serving on city council, she was president of the Historic Aiken Foundation and the Aiken Civic Ballet. A fire in Sylvania has devastated the owner and customers of a longtime bakery there. Dow Kennedy takes us inside what's left as the owner and family try to decide their next move.
The owner says all she could do was watch as fire turned her bakery into an oven.
Donna McDonough fields questions every day about the fire at her bakery and deli. It happened April 16th on a Sunday afternoon.
My son called me. I thought he was joking with me. And I was like, haha, that's funny. And he's a volunteer fireman. And he said, Mama, I'm on my way. He said, the bakery's on fire.
She'd been open just shy of 27 years and says other businesses started showing up to help before the fire was really out.
Everybody offered jobs to our employees with the promise to give them back to us.
She's been overwhelmed at the ways people have helped.
Little Dipper, Grace Waits, she took our leftover donuts that we had in the freezer, and she had a fundraiser on a Saturday morning. We went up there and helped her and got to see all our people. That's what we miss most is our people.
She says she's beyond grateful to everyone who's pitched in during her family's time of need.
Great to see everybody helping out there, and hopefully they are able to build back and get that business going again. The owner says she and her daughter are leaning towards reopening, but they're working with their landlord to try to figure out how and when. An update to the deadly mass shooting in Atlanta a couple weeks ago. All 4 surviving victims of the Atlanta shooting are now out of the hospital. On May 3rd, a 24-year-old suspect opened fire inside a medical center in Midtown, killing 1 woman and setting off an hours-long manhunt for the suspect. Now, 4 women injured are back with their families and recovering. The suspect, gunman, faces charges of murder and aggravated assault. Well, we're not just seeing increasing prices at the gas pump. Power companies are feeling inflation too. Joshua Skinner shows us how their pain is about to be passed on to you and what options we all have.
Price hike is coming to Georgia. Starting June 1st, most users will see their bill jump by about $16. The reason for the jump? Georgia Power spokesperson John Kraft says it's higher gas prices in the wake of the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Just as Georgians have experienced higher fuel prices at the gas pump in 2022, Georgia Power has also experienced that pressure with the fuels that we use to generate power.
The Georgia Public Service Commission approved the hike, which will be spread out over 3 years instead of the usual 2. It's a big hike, and one Georgia Power realizes is not easy on customers.
Georgia Power does work with different organizations to help people pay utility bills, such as the SHARE program with the Salvation Army, which helps over 15,000 Georgians.
The Salvation Army Project Share funds will go towards a variety of needs, whether utility bills, rent, and other things like that.
Organizations like the Salvation Army and the United Way are just a couple of the nonprofits that help people pay utility bills. There's also a discount for eligible seniors who can chop off over $30 of their monthly bill. And for those who can afford the upfront cost, there's also the possibility to add an alternative form of energy, such as solar. But for everyone else, the price is going up and could go higher. It could also drop.
Over the next year or so, if we see these prices continue to moderate, we'd be back in and lowering that rate.
But already approved rate hikes in 2024 and 25 means the possible benefit of that will be muted if it ever happens.
And again, those new rates by Georgia Power go into effect just over 2 weeks from now on June 1st. The world's largest airport is getting even more flights. The airport announced yesterday that Ethiopian Airlines are coming to Hartsfield-Jackson International, which means new flights from Atlanta to the capital of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. The flights will be offered 4 times per week. After a marathon 23-hour-long debate, a bill that would make it harder to get an abortion in South Carolina cleared a major hurdle. The State House of Representatives passed a 6-week abortion ban last night after starting their debate Tuesday afternoon. Our State House reporter Mary Green was there for it all and has the details.
It's a win today for all the babies that are yet to be born. No one, especially the 170 members of the General Assembly, who, by the way, are comprised mostly of men, should stand between a woman and her doctor.
In a vote largely along party lines in the House of Representatives, a months-long stalemate between Republicans over abortion restrictions may have broken. The House approved a bill that has already passed the Senate and would ban most abortions in South Carolina after about 6 weeks, the time before opponents argue many women know they're pregnant. It would allow limited exceptions to save the mother's life for sexual assault victims and when the fetus has a fatal anomaly that would prevent it from surviving outside the womb.
Murder is murder. If something's alive and it's growing and it stops, it's dead now.
Abortion is currently legal in South Carolina before about 20 weeks into a pregnancy, one of the least restrictive abortion laws in the Southeast. House Republicans had previously resisted taking up this 6-week ban, arguing it didn't go far enough. But they changed their course of action after multiple attempts in the state Senate to pass tighter restrictions failed.
So now the only possible path forward to prevent our state from becoming an abortion destination state in the Southeast is to pass the heartbeat bill again.
Democrats filed nearly 1,000 amendments on the bill, which extended the debate to nearly 24 hours over the course of 2 days, with just one break. Republicans voted down all of those amendments.
They voted for women to carry their rapist babies, voted for women to give birth to dead babies, and voted for 10-year-olds to become mothers.
House members did make some changes to this bill from what the Senate originally passed. So next it'll be up to senators to decide if they'll accept these changes and send the bill as it is to the governor, or if they'll try to work out a compromise. Reporting from the State House, I'm Mary Green.
In January, the state's Supreme Court struck down South Carolina's previous 6-week ban, ruling it violated the state's constitutional right to privacy. Any future abortion law that may pass is all but certain to face another legal challenge. In North Carolina, most abortions after 12 weeks of pregnancy will be banned after Republican lawmakers overrode the governor's veto. The state Speaker of the House, Tim Moore, says legislation is a compromise and aligns the state with the rest of the world.
There were certainly a lot on my side of the aisle who felt like a 6-week bill, like it's being debated in South Carolina, other states, would be more appropriate. And then, of course, there's some that wanted more weeks than 12. And so the compromise came down to 12 weeks, but also made sure that we had those exceptions in there as well. So that's the bill that we passed.
The new legislation is set to go into effect July 1st. A lawsuit has been filed against a woman who was allegedly drunk when she crashed into a golf cart carrying a wedding party, killing the bride, Samantha Miller Hutchinson, and severely injuring the groom, Eric Hutchinson, last month on Folly Beach in South Carolina. Attorney Danny Delton filed the suit against Jamie Komorowski and several bars and restaurants in the area. Raymond Owens has that story.
Obviously, we filed the lawsuit today. This case is about keeping the public and keeping all of us safe from drunk driving, keeping the community safe, and doing what we can to combat drunk driving.
The lawsuit claims Komorowski went to a number of bars on April 28th before the crash, including El Gallo Bar and Grill near Daniel Island. Then she went to Folly Beach, to Snapper Jack's, the Crab Shack, and the Drop-In Bar. The suit claims the bars served her more alcohol, even though they say they have witnesses and video that shows she was very clearly drunk. The lawsuit says Komorowski was an employee at Taco Boy on Folly Beach. and that her employer regularly served alcohol at parties after work. Dalton says they believe that happened at least one location the night of the crash.
And that there was a almost routine gathering to go out to bars or a bar after their shifts, or in the middle of their shifts, or at different times, and that supervisors would also attend those gatherings or those events.
So I went to Taco Boy to try to speak to their management about this lawsuit. I told him the lawsuit said Komorowski was an employee and that there was an employee party she attended the night of the crash. Jamie Lee Komorowski was an employee here, and you guys had an employee party the day of the crash. Is that true? No. She's not an employee here, never has been?
Well, I'll direct you to Billy Schaefer, our operations director.
I then went to Snapper Jack's. They had no comment on the lawsuit. At the Folly Beach Crab Shack next door, they did not have any comment. And that's what the employee at the drop-in bar told me as well. The lawsuit also says the bride, Samantha Miller, was aware of what happened to her briefly after the accident, but before she died. Dalton says they're not certain about the full timeline of what happened the night of the crash.
Part of the reason we wanted to file the lawsuit was to get into the formal discovery process where we and the families can get more definite answers to some of the questions that are still a little vague to us.
So sad situation all around there. After Alec Murdaugh admitted to stealing millions in settlement money from his former housekeeper's family, he's now looking to rescind an admission that he lied about the circumstances surrounding his housekeeper's death. Gloria Satterfield died after allegedly falling at the Murdaugh's Colleton County property back in 2018. Murdaugh is petitioning the court to vacate the judgment because if the insurance company that initially sent him the money wins a judgment against him, the only effect will be to reduce the money available to his many other victims. South Carolina drivers with the Carolina Squat modification are being taken off the road. This comes as Governor McMaster signed a bill into law banning it for safety reasons. This means any vehicle with a difference of 4 or more inches between the front and rear fenders will be fined anywhere from $100 to $300. Offenders could also have their licenses suspended for repeat offenses. This will go into effect July 1st, but drivers will have 180 days to remove these modifications before they can be fined. Golf in South Carolina may be getting a little more affordable. The House passed a bill that would take away a 5% admissions tax on golf dues at all courses. As it stands now, only some players have to pay this depending on the course. The bill still has to go through the Senate and be signed by Governor McMaster, which may not happen this session. $3 million will be split among 3 schools to preserve and revitalize historic black colleges and universities in the Palmetto State. The money will fund 4 structure repair projects at South Carolina State, Allen University, and Benedict College. So check back in here on Southside Elementary School, where we have an active shooter drill going on right now. Law enforcement from across the area taking part in this, training for different scenarios that they may be faced with. This comes, of course, after the Sandbar Ferry Road shooting that we had this weekend that killed 2 people, injured 4 others, put us on the mass shooting registry here in Augusta. So they're going through this training right now. Remember, we also had a threat of an active shooter at Westside High School earlier in the school year. That turned out to be a hoax, thankfully, but just another scenario that these law enforcement are going to be preparing for. So we do have a crew out there right now, as you can see on the right side of your screen, and we'll have a little bit more from them coming up later on this evening. And we may check back in with them a little bit later in this. Who knows? Depends how it's going over there. Okay, let's get to the next spot here. All right. Still apart but optimistic, that is the tone from congressional leaders after a meeting with the president on the debt ceiling negotiations. Both sides say default is not an option. That means everybody is going to have to compromise. The White House team met last night with GOP negotiators and will be in contact with President Biden as he heads to Japan for the G7 summit. NBC's Drew Petrimalu is on Capitol Hill with the details.
President Biden heading overseas as a cloud of doubt hangs over Washington.
Before I leave, I wanted to say a word about the status of negotiations.
Fresh off a meeting with top congressional leaders, President Biden today saying he's confident a deal will be reached.
We're going to come together. because there's no alternative to do the right thing for the country.
Democratic leaders acknowledging that a deal to increase the nation's borrowing limit will include spending cuts. But lawmakers have just 2 weeks to act before risking a catastrophic default.
We now have a time problem.
If the government is unable to pay its bills, Social Security checks, tax refunds, and veterans benefits could all be delayed. One of the remaining sticking points is a Republican push to add tougher work requirements for some federal aid programs that congressional Democrats and the White House oppose. While the president is in Japan for the G7 summit with top U.S. allies, his team of aides will continue negotiations with Republicans.
Mr. President, stop hiding. Stop traveling somewhere else. America wants an American president focused on American problems, finding American solutions. We have them here for you.
The president cutting his overseas trip short, skipping planned stops in Australia and Papua New Guinea, and returning to Washington on Sunday to continue negotiations. In Washington, Drew Petrimo, NBC News.
As you know, when we're not live on the air, you can always find us live on the WRDW app, whether it's at the News 12 Now desk or through our national team in Washington, D.C. with Local News Live. I caught up with Local News Live lead anchor Deborah Alfarone yesterday to talk about what they're working on up there. Hey folks, good morning. Welcome into the News 12 Now desk. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday, about 11:15 here on our Wednesday, and we are joined by a very special guest today coming to us from Washington, D.C. So as you know, WRDW is always on your side with our website and our WRDW streaming app, but even when we're not on the air, Local News Live has you covered, and that is why we have Deborah joining us today, bringing you big stories and breaking news as it happens. So LNL lead anchor and WRDW national correspondent Deborah Alfarone is here with us. Deborah, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me. I'm so thrilled I could be talking to you and everyone who's watching.
Absolutely. And so let's jump right into it. We've got a very, very big story in Washington, D.C. right now. We're talking about the debt ceiling that we have and the two sides trying to come to an agreement before the deadline comes up at the end of the month. So what happens if they aren't able to come to an agreement on the debt ceiling?
I mean, it would be historic. It really would be. This has never happened before. That we would not be able to pay our debts on time, and so it might trigger a financial catastrophe. And that's, of course, according to the Treasury Secretary. So we do not want this to happen. Nobody wants this to happen, and both sides have kind of been far apart, but it seems that they're getting closer and closer, and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has even used the word possible, which is a big departure, because it seemed like both sides were so far apart. But he did use the word possible, and he's even pushing for a quicker deal. Obviously, there will have to be some negotiations and some compromises. That's the only way anything will get done. But then, let's say they have this negotiation and they come up with whatever it is they want to come up with. Well, then it has 15 days to get passed through Congress. So, well, I'd like to say, oh yeah, sure, they might be able to come up with this by the end of the week, which is what they're hoping for. It still has to go through Congress. So we're just going to have to keep reporting on it every day. Every day there's a new detail and a new development. So the latest is that President Biden is cutting his trip to the G7 summit short to make sure that he's back by Sunday. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, and hopefully they are able to get something done. And as we know, it could seem like it's stuck in the mud and then all of a sudden things move pretty quickly to get done. Deborah, a lot of our viewers may remember you from our newscast during the CBS days. You've been at Local News Live now for a couple of months. What's the work that you guys are doing over there, and what makes Local News Live so different and so special?
Thank you so much for asking. So I loved my time at CBS, but I could not pass up the opportunity to be here, to be part of this relaunch of Local News Live. I'm a local news girl. Like, I have been working in local news for a long time, and nobody knows your backyard, your hometown, your neighborhood like a local news reporter. And I've worked at network, and everybody who covers a specific area knows it so well. So when there's breaking news, you know what it really means. You know who it means something to, but also those incredible personal, like, feature stories about someone doing something incredible for their community. That's the power of the local journalist. So here, I'm taking my national background to be the lead anchor here and bring you those headlines, kind of break down the debt ceiling, tell you what's going on across the country. But also, we invite those local reporters who know it so well. Like, for example, we had you guys talking to us about the Masters. And so you would come on every day and talk to us about that. I mean, I can stand here and talk about it, but what do I know? You know it so well. And so we've got the national headlines, and then we've got the power of local journalism. And it's not just your station. You know, we have 113 plus stations across the country. So odds are when there's breaking news, we're going to have someone who knows it pretty well. And that's what Local News Live is. It is incredible and it's unique.
Yeah, had a blast doing those hits every morning from Augusta National, talking to Troy and Ryan, just being out there and kind of getting that experience with them. And, you know, just it's fun to kind of just sit here and chat. But obviously it's more than just chatting, because you guys do bring on, we saw Lindsey Graham there in the video that we just showed. I saw Marianne Williamson was just on not too long ago. So it's more than just sitting here and talking. It's really big name people coming on and good journalism that you guys are doing as well. So Deborah, where can we tune into Local News Live?
First of all, thank you so much for that compliment. We work hard here to get those big name guests and really hold them to account and ask them the questions that we know that our viewers want to have them asked. So there's that. Thank you. And you can always watch us on your app and your website. When your newscast is over, well, that's when we come on. And we're a 24/7 station, so we're always on. Not me personally. I get to go home and go to sleep at some point today.
Yeah, that's always good. Yeah, I get done about 12:30, so I'm the same way. The show runs without us.
There you go.
We take a little break. So, Deborah, we appreciate the time so much. I know you've got plenty of other stations to talk to today to get the word out about Local News Live and the great work you guys are doing. So we'll let you go, but just wanted to say thank you again for tuning in.
Thank you so much. Let's keep in touch. I want you back on Local News Live, okay?
Absolutely. And I think you've been on our morning mix show before, talking to Cliff and Zaina and talking about the podcast that you've got going and everything like that. So a lot of big things coming from you towards our station. So we appreciate it.
You got it. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Deborah. You too. So there you go. Great time talking yesterday with Deborah Alfaro. And again, they do some really great work over there at Local News Live. So when we're not live here on the News 12 Now desk and we're not live in a newscast, you can always tune in and catch Local News Live. They are running all throughout the day. So why not go ahead and tune in? They got some good stuff going on over there. Okay, for one South Carolina city, the park that they have is more than just a place to enjoy the day. It's a sign of progress. Greenville's Unity Park wasn't always how it is today. It was segregated for decades. As the city celebrates the one-year anniversary of this park, Zach Perlusky shows us its history.
We wanted a place where people would come together, that would understand this is not just a green space, it's a park with a message. It's everything we could have hoped for.
It's able to bring generations together.
Greenville natives Vicki Fritz Hamilton and Wanda Johnson are at the park 5 days a week.
It's amazing that we can enjoy it. I come out here on lots of occasions walking.
We get a chance to see people, talk with people, communicate with people, have a good time, sit down and reflect upon the day's journey.
They remember when this land was two former segregated parks, Mayberry and Meadowbrook Park.
I remember the gravel, and I remember the park that was here before.
In the 1930s, E.B. Holloway made a request to give this community a park, after a large portion of Mayberry Park was taken by the city to build a baseball stadium for whites only.
I thank God for Reverend E.B. Holloway, who had the vision and the forethought to go before City Council so that we can have this beautiful park.
It took more than 80 years before Unity Park would open right across the street from Tabernacle Baptist Church.
There are seniors in this area that are literally watching a totally new generation come and enjoy the amenities of Greenville.
A mile down the road, Reverend Stacy Mills is the senior pastor at Mountain View Baptist Church.
It certainly does make a difference to have people looking at this side of town in a different way.
He sees that driving past Unity Park every day.
It gives a strong nod to what has been, but it certainly embraces what can be.
Another aspect of that park is affordable housing. Greenville's mayor says the city has donated 8 acres of land next to the park that'll become affordable housing over the next few years. New developments in the brutal killings of those 4 University of Idaho students. The suspect has been indicted, and as Aaron McLaughlin reports, we will soon see him in court.
Tonight in Moscow, Idaho, Brian Koberger, the man charged with stabbing 4 college students to death, now indicted by a grand jury. The indictment includes 4 counts of murder in the first degree and 1 count of burglary. If found guilty, he could be sentenced to death. Kohberger has yet to enter a plea, but his previous attorney said he believes he'll be exonerated. The indictment follows his December arrest at his family home in Pennsylvania. More than 45 days after Maddie Mogen, Kaylee Gonsalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin were found brutally murdered in this college house. According to court documents, Kohberger's DNA was found on a knife sheath at the crime scene, and his white Hyundai Elantra, seen driving here during a routine traffic stop, was also allegedly caught on camera in the area the night of the killings. One of 2 surviving roommates telling police she saw a male figure with bushy eyebrows, a mask, and black clothing in the home that night.
So this grand jury indictment simplifies the process for the surviving witnesses.
Absolutely, because they don't have to testify in front of Kohberger during this preliminary proceeding.
News of the indictment is the latest twist in a grisly case that's left a small university community heartbroken. Last weekend, Kaylee and Maddie both received posthumous degrees. Kohberger will be arraigned on Monday. Legal experts say once he enters a plea, the trial must begin within 6 months unless he waives his right to a speedy trial. Lester?
Not Lester, but I'll take it. A spokesman for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle say the royal couple had a dangerous ride Tuesday night in New York. They blame photographers for the car pursuit through Manhattan that started after they attended a gala event. Michael George has the latest from New York.
Prince Harry and his wife Meghan said photographers dangerously pursued them in a, quote, near catastrophic car chase through the streets of New York City. A statement from the spokesperson for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex reads, "This relentless pursuit lasting over 2 hours resulted in multiple near collisions involving other drivers on the road, pedestrians, and 2 NYPD officers." New York Mayor Eric Adams called the incident reckless and irresponsible.
Public safety must always be at the forefront. 2 of our officers could have been injured. New York City is different from a small town somewhere. You shouldn't be speeding anywhere.
At one point, the couple jumped into the back of this yellow cab driver's car outside the 19th precinct.
All of a sudden, paparazzis came and started taking pictures. And then they were just about to give me the location where they were gonna go, but then they told me to circle back to the precinct.
The drama unfolded after Meghan Markle was given an award during the Women of Vision Gala here at the iconic Ziegfeld Ballroom. Law enforcement sources tell CBS News Harry and Meghan did not want the paparazzi to know where they were staying, so they circled Midtown Manhattan for more than an hour, with NYPD squad cars providing crowd control. Police say Harry and Meghan were not in danger, but the incident evoked memories of the death of Harry's mother, Princess Diana, in a 1997 collision after the car she was riding in tried to outrun the paparazzi in Paris. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
A statement from the New York Police Department said the pursuit was relatively short and led to no injuries, collisions, or arrests. An off-duty deputy was fishing off the coast of Florida when he says a tiny dolphin swimming in circles was struggling to get to the water to breathe. He called for backup, who took the dolphin to the Clearwater Marine Aquarium before they sent it to SeaWorld Rescue. They say the male dolphin is still in critical condition, but he's showing signs of improvement and now swimming on his own. Canceled flights, no refunds, and lost luggage. Those were just some of the more than 77,000 complaints against airlines in 2022. In this Watching Your Wallet, consumer investigator Carice Jackman breaks down what you need to know before you book and shares one person's traveling headache.
It's something airline passengers hope stays simple. You book your flight, come to the airport, board your trip, and you land. But sometimes for travelers, going from one destination to the next comes with a headache.
The flight was horrible.
When Quenisha Jackson touched down in Washington, D.C., she couldn't wait to get off the plane.
Hour-and-a-half flight, but it was the worst hour-and-a-half ever. Won't do it again.
Jackson says the seats and aisles on board her American Airlines flight were way too small.
I literally had no elbow room. Like, I had to sit like this up against the window.
She's among thousands of passengers who complain about airlines each year. According to a new report called The Plain Truth by the U.S. Public Interest Research Group, complaints against airlines are soaring.
For 2022, there were 77,000 total complaints, which is the second largest number, dwarfed only by 2020 when there were more than 100,000 complaints. And most of those were, about refunds when everybody's flights were getting canceled at the beginning of the pandemic.
Murray's report analyzed new data from the Department of Transportation and categorized consumer complaints against 17 airlines. According to the report, Frontier had the most complaints per 100,000 boarded passengers, followed by Spirit Airlines and JetBlue Airways.
This is very discouraging. This should be a huge wake-up call for the airline industry as a whole, that we are not making our customers happy.
Out of all of the complaints in 2022, U.S. PIRG's report found cancellation, delays, and missed connections topped the list. The report also looked at complaints from passengers with disabilities.
The worst for incidents with wheelchairs and scooters were Spirit and JetBlue, and the best ones that had the fewest incidents with damaged wheelchairs or scooters were Allegiant, Endeavor, and Delta.
Murray says it's important people know their rights before they even arrive at the airport.
By federal law, if you are bumped involuntarily from a flight, you are entitled to set levels of compensation. So if you're going to be delayed getting another flight by an hour to 2 hours, you're entitled to up to $775. And then if you're delayed more than 2 hours, you're entitled to up to $1,500.
Rights Jackson wishes more people knew about.
The airline should advertise it more. I think they should take responsibility, and accountability. Hey, if I have to bump you, you're automatically guaranteed this and this and this. Yeah. And I think that may bring in more customers too by them advertising that.
Murray says if you are curious about your rights, the U.S. Department of Transportation has set up a dashboard where you can find out everything from consumer protection to enforcement orders. You can also file a complaint, making you aware of what you can do before you take off. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Carice Jackman.
Let's talk about some sports now. A local school is seeing some renovations for their fields and facilities, and Harlem's baseball team is headed to the state championship for the first time in more than 20 years. Dan Booth has your sports.
Good morning, everyone. Big changes are coming for the Aquinas Fighting Irish. School officials have announced a capital campaign worth $12 million, with most of that money going towards improving their sports facilities. 8.6 of that $12 million are going towards renovations to the football stadium, the baseball field, the surrounding buildings, and a new practice field. These changes will make it easier for Aquinas' sports teams to organize their schedules, make it easier for fans to have access to the field on game nights, and will have to improve the fan experience by adding ramps and installing more bathrooms. The rest of the $3.4 million raised by this campaign will go towards financial aid for the students.
It will not only impact our students and their families, but also our future students. We are building this for the next generation of students, the next 50 years, just as our current fields have served us for 50 years. That's what we're looking for.
The groundbreaking ceremony for these new facilities is scheduled to take place in August, right after Aquinas' first home football game of the season. While the new football stadium is being built, the Fighting Irish will play their home football games over at Greenbrier High School. The new facilities are expected to be ready for the start of the 2024 school year. After sweeping every playoff series they've had so far this postseason, the Harlem baseball team is heading to the state championship for the first time since 1999. The Bulldogs' last state championship victory was back in 1986 rather. This year, state will be held at Advent Health Stadium in Rome, home of the Rome Braves.
It'll be fun to play in that big park, but bases is 90 foot everywhere. The mound's 60 foot 6 inches everywhere, and the plate's 17 inches wide everywhere. So, we just got to go play ball.
Baseball Geometry 101, courtesy of head coach Jimmy Lewis. Harlem's state championship series against Ringgold begins with a doubleheader on Friday. Game 1 starts at 5 o'clock in Rome. That's it for sports. Have a great day, everybody.
Okay, thanks for that, Dan. Good luck to Harlem. Congrats to Aquinas. Also, Emmanuel County beat Schley County last night in the semifinals, so they are headed to the state championship in the Class A Division II state playoffs. So good luck to them as well. And then I know we still have some teams alive in South Carolina softball as well. So good luck to everybody still in it. I think baseball and softball rounds out our spring season, and then we're done. Okay. Saturday, Savannah River Brewing is hosting their first ever Wiener Fest. It's not about the pups, it is about the hot dogs, though. Our Will Volk caught up with one of the organizers to talk about what we can expect.
It's not every day you see a guy in a wiener costume walking down the street.
Scott Russell has transformed himself into a walking, talking wiener.
It's a lot of fun. You can do whatever you want when you're in a wiener costume.
Russell is not dressing like this just to be fashionable. He's trying to promote a new event he created with his friends at Love Augusta.
One of them was like, I have always wanted to do a hot dog festival. And we all died laughing and said, we're going to call it Wiener Fest.
He says they quickly mustered up support from local businesses, and now half a dozen restaurants are making hot dogs for this.
I wanted to see what these vendors could kind of cook up, because they're all making their own special hot dog, and with the amazing vendors we have, I know it's going to be some really good food.
Whether you're there to eat, watch the hot dog eating contest, or hang out, Russell thinks it'll be fun.
It's going to be a wienerific day.
And yes, he already has his outfit picked out.
I'll definitely be the biggest wiener in town that day.
In Augusta, Will Volk on your side.
There you go. Going down at Savannah River Brewing this Saturday. So head on out there and check it out. Hot dog eating contest registration is closed, but you can still check it out. Enjoy a brew, enjoy a dog. Why not? Sounds like a good time. Okay, that's going to wrap it up here for our top headlines. Got about 4 minutes till Morning Mix starts, so head on over there. Cliff and Zane got you covered with all the lifestyle news going on the TV side of things. As for us, we'll be back here a little bit later on this morning. Don't forget to download the streaming app, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll be back a little bit later on with some more. Have a good one.